everybody. My name is Sarah and I'm yet another researcher from the University of Newcastle. Thank you. I'm a dementia researcher, which might make you think that I forget about a lot of things. And it's kind of true. My boyfriend is always telling me that I commit to way too many things and then I forget to turn up on time. I'm a chronic late person. It's so bad that not only him, but my friends and family, they usually give me like start times that are half hour to an hour before the event starts, just so I can make it there on time. Honestly, pretty impressive that I got here. Like, well done Dave, well done too, putting me last. Smart move. So you might be thinking, does this person actually have dementia? I also sometimes feel like it. I suffer from indecisiveness. It gets so bad, I can't make any decisions, that most of my nights with my boyfriend look like this. He's going, what do you want for dinner? And I'm like, are we doing this again? I don't know. There's too many options. I can never decide. But truthfully, dementia is a risk factor in my family. My grandfather passed away from dementia not too long ago, and I'm sure some of you in the audience have known someone in your family or someone in your life that has been affected by this terrible disease. But if you are a younger person and you're like, well, that's dementia, I don't have to worry about that for another few decades, hold on just a second, because my research is actually in dementia risk reduction for younger adults. So that just means I'm here to tell you about how you can keep your brain nice and active and healthy for as long as possible. So you might see me up here and have some suspicion that I'm just another basic blonde who's going to tell you to eat your veggies and that I'm some wannabe Instagram influencer. And you might be right. Uncanny. Except the Instagram influencer part. Now, I could also just tell you to prevent dementia, to stop doom scrolling, right? Block out what Trump is saying and, get off TikTok and Instagram. But the researcher in me also needs to tell you that there are some simple steps that you can take to start helping you age healthily, and especially with your brain, and possibly prevent getting dementia. So, let me take you on a journey of what my research is about and some tips about how you can start to reduce your risk for dementia. I'll start off by briefly going over what dementia actually is. It's called, dementia is an umbrella term for a range of syndromes that impact and lead to cognitive decline. So you might be familiar with Alzheimer's disease, that is the most common one. And dementias can impact things like your memory, your personality, things like, everyday living skills, just the way you think, and of course, cognitive abilities like decision making. So because I research a lot of dementia things, I go home sometimes and I'm like looking for my keys and all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, maybe she's born with it, or maybe, is it dementia? We'll never know. Maybe in a few decades, I'll keep you posted, all right? But like I said, dementia can cause changes to the brain. It's impacting not only the person, but everyone around them. But let's get to the risk factor part. So we know that age can be a risk factor as well as genetics, but I focus on modifiable risk factors. So things that you can modify or change in your life to prevent or reduce your risk for dementia. So what are the risk factors for dementia? Well, I'm glad you asked. Here we go. We got this beautiful, blurry, interesting graph that you can't read anything on, right? Helpful. But let me break this down a bit. I'm going to strip it back. And how I did this was by consulting Microsoft Paint. So this is what I got. Yeah, really good. Now, the biggest thing I want you to take away from this is that I'm not an artist. I should have gone to ChatGPT or AI. This is not very helpful. And trust me, this does not represent my research skills. I'm a much better researcher, okay? But another thing I want you to take away from this is that the risk factors, they tend to pop up throughout the lifespan. In the way of that one. So they can pop up in early life, they can pop up in midlife and late life. Sometimes I like to describe the risk factors throughout life, sort of like that creepy ex that you blocked that keeps popping up out of nowhere. He's like in the bushes, you think you got rid of him, you keep ignoring it, and all of a sudden there he is again calling you from his mum's phone, like, hey, what's going on? He just won't give up. So, here he is all throughout your life, just really not taking the hint. And like exes, if you keep ignoring and don't tell them to take the hint, get going, it will start to pile up and really impact your life and really do some irreversible damage that maybe you could have prevented, right? So what I really want you to take away from this is that there are things you can be doing in your early life, in your midlife, and your late life to reduce your risk. So what you're doing in your 20s, your 30s, and your 40s can impact and directly link to what you're doing in your 60s, 70s, and 80s. So this is all well and good, but I haven't actually told you what the risk factors are. So these are the wonderful risk factors. There's 14 of them that I focused on in my research. And again, let's just break this down a bit. I'll make it a little bit more digestible. Again, Microsoft Paint, thank you. We all know these ones. These are the classics. You've probably gone to the doctor and they've gone, have you seen a vegetable in a while? Do you smoke? You know, what's your exercise? Maybe they take some blood pressure, you've had a blood test before. These are the risk factors, such as smoking, high blood pressure, that really overlap with other chronic diseases. These are still really important for your brain health and really important for preventing dementia. But I'm going to focus on these other ones, a little bit more specific to dementia. So we have things here like head injury, social isolation, but for the purpose of time, let me just focus on 3 of them. I'm going to focus on head injury, vision loss, and hearing loss. So let's start with hearing loss. So a few years ago, my dad couldn't really hear anything. We would literally be in the same room as him, being like talking, and he'd be like, what? I'd be like, Dad, where's the TV remote? He's like, oh yeah, I'll have a Coke. And I'm like, that's great, cool, awesome, love you. And I literally would be leaving, and I'd be like, see you later, Dad, I love you. And he'd be like, just grab some juice while you're there. And I was like, Dad, just tell me I'll be back. Anyway, we begged him, we really did. We begged him to go get his hearing tested. Turns out he needed hearing aids, shocker. So, he came back home and it was wonderful. He could hear us. It was awesome. We're having conversations. And then I still said to him, like, see you later, Dad, I love you. And he was like, okay, thanks. And then I drove straight to my therapist. I was like, oh, oops, let's go back in. Anyway, but why does this happen? Hearing loss is a normal part of life. We shouldn't be scared of it. For dementia though, it is linked. And what we want to do here is what happens is you're hearing things and it's activating parts of your brain that light up and you're getting brain activation. But as we age, some of those cells start to die. Some of those cells start to die. And so that brain isn't being activated as strong. So what we really want people to do is get the hearing tested sooner so that if they do have any hearing loss, they pop those hearing aids in and you can reduce that risk of the brain activation going bad really quickly. And that's a beautiful little diagram to show that. So we can also apply this to vision loss. So it's another sense, you're looking around, it's activating another part of your brain. But as we age, we may lose our eyesight. So how do we fix this to keep that part of the brain activated? We wear things like glasses or contact lenses. So that's one way we can help reduce that risk. Obviously, that's another risk factor that I have had to note down, but at least I'm not running into as many poles as before. Sometimes it's touch and go, but that's all right. But I'm happy. I can see clearly and my brain is still being activated, so win-win. Now, I'll briefly just touch on head injury. So we may have heard this before, but there's a brain in here that's really important, and we need to make sure that we are protecting this. So head injury can really damage our brains, but like before, I was talking about brain activation. But if you have brain damage, you can't activate that part of the brain. So how do we do this? How do we protect our brains so that it doesn't lead to dementia or other related brain issues? By wearing helmets, yay! Awesome. And also, if you ever do get a concussion, taking it a little bit seriously. So making sure that if you're playing contact sport and you get a concussion, that you don't just keep playing, that you go and get it checked out somewhere, because we really want to be checking that we're not doing any irreversible damage. So, I've talked a little bit about hearing loss, we've got eyesight on there, and how to protect your brain from head injury. But what do I do? Am I the Instagram influencer telling you to eat your veggies and get your hearing aids checked? Better go to the gym? Well, no. I fit in here. I got rid of the X's, they were a bit too much. This is where I sit. I do want to get rid of the ex-boyfriends or ex-girlfriends. I want to get rid of those risk factors, or at least tell people about them so that they know if that is a risk factor for them, that they need to watch out for it. So I want to understand and teach young adults what the risk factors for dementia are so that they have a better awareness as they get older about what they need to be aware of. I also want to get them engaging in some of these risk factors. But there's 14 of them, and sometimes, the decision paralysis may come back, right? What do I do? Do I go to the gym or do I eat a vegetable? It's a tough choice, sometimes. And in no way am I expecting everyone to do everything at all the time forever, but we can find out what is a risk factor for us. So for young adults, we might instead focus on practical or easier things for them to be doing at that point in time. This could be, turning down the volume a little bit. We all want to have a screaming session or go to a concert, but maybe let's protect our ears a little bit more and also be like Ponga and wear some headgear once in a while, or a helmet. So, hopefully you've got a little bit of taste of what dementia risk reduction is and what are some of the risk factors or little steps that you can take today. I'm not going to be some Karen telling you to put your hard hat on or, run on a treadmill, but I also won't tell you to wear any funky helmets in a grocery store. It's not quite that extreme just yet. But if there's one thing you can count on for me, it's that I'll always and most likely be late. Thank you very much.